Hello you all, welcome back to another tutorial. This is going to be a client makeover. So this is my client. I was doing her makeup and she let me record it, so here we are. I've done her brows off camera. I will list everything in the description box down below. So starting off with her eyes, she said she wanted something like a kind of soft glam. She showed me a picture and I was like, okay, my signature look it is. So right now I am using a fluffy blending brush, and I'm taking actually the palette from Essence Makeup called the Sun Club Matte Bronzing Powder Palette, and I'm using those first two top shades and I'm putting them in her crease. I felt like I had something soft enough, but I didn't see it on hand, so I ended up using the actual bronzer, and I'm using this bronzer to just deepen up her crease, and I'm using it as a transition color. So I'm just taking a brush and I'm going back and forth using windshield wiper motions to put this color on because I just want to make sure that it is evenly blended. Now I am going into my Juvias Place, the Warrior palette, and I'm taking the shade. This palette doesn't have any shades in it, but I am taking the second row second shade, which is a champagne gold, and I'm also taking the first row, which is the first shade, which is more of a bronzing gold, and I just mixed the two and I pat them on her eyelid using a patting motion. I'm not necessarily swiping it on her eye. I did wet my brush or spray my brush with the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist just so I can make sure that the color come up even more. So that's all I'm doing here is taking those shades out of the Warrior palette by Juvias Place and I'm petting them all over her lid. I didn't want this eyeshadow look to be too golden or too yellow. I want it to be like the perfect mix of champagne shade to go with her skin tone as per requested. I did dip in the Warriors 2 palette by Juvias Place. I did use that first brown shade called Yoded, and I've just placed that in her crease and in her outer corners just to finish up the look. And so I just didn't want it to just, I wanted everything to be blended, so I used a shade called Yoded, and which is this really nice brown transition shade. I absolutely love this this palette actually. Now I'm going to be going in with a liquid liner. This is the Wet n Wild Mega Last liquid liner, which I love this liner. To me, it's easier to use on my clients, I should say, and it just works so well. It's sturdy enough. It's not moving around too much, whereby it's so wet that I have to move slow or fix it. This liner is really nice and it lasts a very long time. Next, I'm going to be taking a black eyeshadow to blend out that the edge of the liner just to kind of diffuse it a little bit. And then I'm going to be going in with the Neutrogena wipe to wipe off any excess fallout. I'm going to be taking the Neutrogena Hydro Boost Gel Cream to moisturize her skin. So for her primer, I did use the Milk of Magnesia as a primer just to see how it would look like under the makeup. So now I'm putting on lashes, but the lashes was a whole thing and you will see that throughout this video. But right now I'm using the MAC Studio Fix Fluid Liquid Foundation and I am putting this all over her skin. This foundation is in the shade NC44 and I did mix it with a little bit of NC45. And I'm using an e.l.f. sponge to pat that all on her skin and make sure everything is blended out evenly. I'm going in with the Juvias Place Eye and Magic Concealer in the shade number 9 and the shade number 16. Number 16 is a lighter concealer, but I did want her under eyes to be a little more brighter and I want it to be more of a full coverage. So that's why I used 2 concealers. And I'm just going to be blending that out with the sponge as well, making sure everything is seamless, having my client look up so I can be able to get up under her eyes, and yeah. And as I'm blending out her eyes, you guys can see what I meant when I said with the lashes. The lash that I put on, I took it off because it was leaning or it just wasn't on correct. So I ended up taking it off. The other lash ended up drying. I ended up putting that lash on and then I ended up putting the other lash back on. Girl, it was a whole thing. But one thing I can say is that you're not perfect. We're all human and we are not perfect. We make mistakes in all that we do. Every single application might not be a flawless one, but you know, you still got to get through it and still work it out. No one expects you to be a superhuman, okay? But in the end, it all came out beautifully, as you can see. So I'm just basically blending out that concealer, making sure everything looks good. I'm now taking the NC40 and the C4, and I'm putting those shades from the Studio Fix powders, and I'm putting that under her eyes as a base before I put the DermaBlend loose setting powder under her eyes to set her concealer and lock it in. I'm just taking the NC45 and I'm putting that all over her face to set her makeup. Sometimes the hairs on my brush kind of just fall out, and sometimes they fall on my client's face, and I'm just like, and I have to like sweep it off. They probably be like, what is she doing? So now I'm just taking that DermaBlend loose setting powder and I'm pressing it up under her eyes because I just want to make sure that her concealer does not move. I'm going pretty fast here. So now I'm taking the Essesce matte bronzing powder palette, and I'm using this to bronze up her skin. I didn't want to bronze up her skin so much that she begins to look muddy or too dark, but that's the whole purpose of the reverse contouring. It just allows you to see where all the product is. Now I'm just contouring her nose a little bit, not too harsh and not too much, but just enough to give it some kind of definition. So for her blush, I'm going to be going in with the Saharan Blush Volume 2 palette by Juvias Place. I'm going to be taking the shade called Leena and Tau to blush up her cheeks. And I'm just wiping away that powder, making sure there are not any harsh lines. I will be going kind of back and forth like with the bronzing and things like that, just to make sure that everything shows up and it's evenly blended. So next I'm going in with the MAC Black Track liner, and I'm placing some of that in her waterline just to make sure that, you know, her eyes are complete. She did kind of tear up a little bit, but it wasn't so much that I didn't catch it in the beginning, so it did not mess up the makeup. I'm just using this fan to dry her face, and then I'm going to be using some highlight, and the highlight I'm going to be using for her today is the Sephora palette. This is the Sephora Luminizing palette, and I'm going to be using that highlight for today. Placing a highlight basically everywhere, the high points of her cheeks, her nose, under her brow bones, in her tear duct, and just everywhere else, so she can have a nice, healthy glow. So next I'm going to be taking some of the MAC Prep and Prime lip conditioner, putting it all over her lips just to get her lips ready for the lip liner and the lipstick. And this step is so important to me because it definitely helps with the smoothness of the lipstick application and the lip liner. And so I'm just lining her lips with I want to say this is the NYX lip liner in the shade brown, a perfect lip pencil for her complexion. And I'm just making sure her lips are very defined. I really take my time doing lips because they have to look good. They are standing a focal point to me as far as the face is concerned as well. I am taking this liquid lipstick from Morphe, and I forget what shade it's in, but I'm gonna list it in the description box. I thought that this shade would be too light when I first bought it, but when I was putting on her lips, it is the perfect shade. It's actually darker than what I thought it was. It dries down so beautifully, and I was obsessed with her lips. I was obsessed with her lips as I was doing it. I was just like, this is so pretty. I'm blending her lips out with a flat concealer brush. And I did add some of my lip gloss in it. This lip gloss is in the shade So Posh, and I'm just putting that all over her lips just to give her lips a nice, healthy look. Next, I'm going to be taking the mascara from NK, and this mascara is super black. I really like this mascara a lot. It coats the brush or the spoolie very well, so I don't have to go back and forth. It's not drying. I love this mascara that I just recently picked up not too long ago. And I'm just putting some mascara on her top and bottom lashes to blend in with her false lashes. This is the finished look. I hope you guys like this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. Bye.
Oh wow, that's pretty. Thank you. Yes. Thanks. Oh, that's dope. Thank you. You take for that.
Turn this room, turn it to an ocean. Let me float around.